She sat alone at the corner table of Milano's, a small Italian restaurant that smelled of garlic bread and quiet evenings. Her hands folded neatly in her lap as she waited. Margaret Chen, 54 years old, recently widowed, and at the insistence of her younger sister, reluctantly trying the world of blind, dates for the very first time. She had worn her best blouse, the deep burgundy one with pearl buttons, and had spent 40 minutes on her hair, telling herself it didn't matter how tonight went, that she was only doing this for her sister's peace of mind. But somewhere deep inside, she had allowed herself a small, fragile sliver of hope. The man's name was David. They had exchanged a few messages through the dating app her sister had set up for her, and he had seemed warm, intelligent, and funny. She had been nervous all week. She watched the door every time it opened, smoothing her napkin across her lap each time a draft of cool evening air swept in. And then he arrived, tall, well-dressed, scanning the room with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. His eyes found her. He walked over. He smiled. She smiled back. He sat down, picked up the menu, and for a few minutes everything felt like maybe, just maybe, the universe was being kind. Then his eyes drifted to her face more carefully. He set the menu down slowly. He cleared his throat. "I have to be honest," David said, his voice polite but distant, the way people sound when they've already made a decision. "I was expecting someone younger. Your photos must have been from a while ago. I'm sorry, but I don't think this is going to work for me." The words landed like a stone dropped into still water. Margaret didn't flinch, not on the outside. She had lived long enough to know that some cruelties come dressed in courtesy. "Of course," she said softly. "I understand." He nodded, stood up, and walked out of the restaurant without ordering a single thing, without even staying long enough for her to finish her glass of water. The waiter hovered uncertainly nearby, unsure what to do. Margaret straightened her back, picked up her menu, and decided that she would eat dinner anyway. She would order the pasta she had been looking forward to all week. She would drink her wine, and she would not cry in public. She was 54, not fragile. She had buried a husband, raised 2 children on her own during the hard years, built a career from nothing, and survived things that would have broken someone younger. She was reading the menu with deliberate calm when she heard the sound of a chair being pulled out across from her. She looked up. A man stood there, perhaps 60, silver-haired, with kind eyes and the slightly rumpled look of someone who spent more time in bookshops than boardrooms. He was holding a glass of red wine and wearing a small, uncertain smile. "I'm sorry," he said carefully. "I don't usually do things like this. But I was sitting at that table over there and I saw what just happened, and I thought that anyone who could hold their head that high after something like that deserves at least the company of someone with better manners. My name is Robert, and if you'd rather be alone, I completely understand. I'll go back to my table and pretend I'm very interested in my risotto." Margaret looked at him for a long moment. There was nothing rehearsed about him. No smoothness, no performance. Just a man who had seen something unkind happen and decided, quietly, to do something about it. "Sit down, Robert," she said. And so he did. They talked for 3 hours. He was a retired architect who now taught part-time at a community college. He had lost his wife 7 years ago. He loved old films and terrible puns and had once, he confessed with great embarrassment, cried at a dog food commercial. She told him about her late husband, about her garden, about the novel she had been trying to write for 12 years and kept abandoning. He listened, really listened, the way people do when they are genuinely interested, rather than waiting for their own turn to speak. When the restaurant began to dim its lights around them, they walked out into the cool evening air together, pausing on the sidewalk beneath a yellow street lamp. "I'd like to see you again," Robert said, "if that's not too forward." Margaret smiled, not the careful, polite smile she had worn for David, but a real one, the kind that reaches the eyes. "It's not too forward at all," she said. The man who had walked out had been searching for youth. The man who had walked over had recognized something far rarer, a person worth knowing. And sometimes, the most beautiful chapters of a life begin not when everything goes right, but when someone chooses to sit down in the middle of everything going wrong. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like so more people can find it. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late for kindness or for love. And don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Corner Stories, where every story is a reminder that goodness still exists, and it shows up when we least expect it.